Hello and welcome to another episode of Things I Wish My Mum Had Told Me, a podcast brought to you by me, Clara Hermit.
And me, Emma Tamsin-Hill.
Well, we decided to tackle a really serious topic today, but Emma's talking about her tingling fanny.
Guys, I'm so sorry. This is actually a serious episode, but here I am, like, because my lips were tingling. She was like, you know what she's like, right? At this point, you should know what she's like. Which lips? Obviously, the ones on my fucking face, man.
Well, I don't know if you rubbed a bit
my
down
cooch
there.
ain't tingling for no fucking death and grief. This is actually going to be a serious episode, guys.
No, but I didn't mean that you would get off on death and grief. That's not what I was trying to say. What I was trying to say is that you're the kind of person that, you know, you like to multitask. You might have just rubbed a bit down there just to see what happens to that tingly stuff.
Meow.
Yeah. Of all the people I know.
Meow.
No, that's not me being catty.
No, not catty. I just like saying meow.
Oh.
I don't think you're catty. I can't stop saying meow.
Of all the people that I know that would do that,
you know
it's
what?
gonna be you.
I won't put it past me.
No, I'll take that. You know, as a whatever compliment. you know, one of them, a compliment. But anyway, on today's episode, how are you? By the way, I forgot to ask.
I'm all right. I've had 2 drinks now, so we went and had a little aperitivo, had a wine, had a rum. So
You mix it all up.
I did, because like the wine was just not giving. I said to the man, "Can I have a Sauvignon?" Don't have. Fucking all right. You're not even offering me no suggestions. So I said something dry, and he gave me something. It just wasn't hitting the way I wanted it to hit. But it was still, at the end of the day, it's alcohol. I'm gonna drink it. I'm gonna do the best I can with what I got.
I hear you. I just went for the Aperol Spritz.
Aperol Spritz.
I had dos.
Uno, dos, tres,
No, I didn't have tres. I couldn't afford 3.
Uma rapinha, por favor.
Need to take out a new mortgage to get 3.
Yeah, no, it's too expensive here, guys. We're in central London and it is treacherous.
Pricey.
It's not up north here, is it, love?
No, it's
not like Manchester up here.
Yeah? How much is an Aperol Spritz in Manchester?
Don't know, maybe like tenner.
Well, it's not that much less here. Cheap and more expensive, whatever. Anyway, on this episode today, we are going to talk about a very serious topic, but we're going to do it in our way.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about grief, loss, death. Dun, dun,
dun. All serious things, but you know what?
The part of life, mate.
Life is actually funny. Like, even when bad shit happens, life is still funny.
Yeah, it can be really funny. And I think that the thing with loss, death, grief, whatever, is it's going to happen to all of us, right? Like, from the moment that we're born, we're essentially dying in a way, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's it. We're getting older every day. And, you know, sometimes people can be really fearful of, like, getting older. It's like, oh, my God, I'm so scared. I'm going to be 30 so old. And now I'm just about to hit 40. It's like, oh, I'm getting older. I'm going to be 40. I'm really excited about 40 because my sister died at 31. Didn't make it to 40. My mum died at 42. By the time I get to 42, I wonder if there's going to be a shift for me.
Yeah.
Because I will essentially be older than my mum.
That's a hard feeling, I can imagine.
Yeah. But it's also kind of celebratory, right? It's like, I'm still here.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, from speaking to other people who have lost their mums, that sometimes it's like they don't really want to start life until they reach that age, just in case they don't make it, if that makes sense.
Yeah. That's difficult.
Yeah.
I feel like I've not had a parent. Both my parents are still here. I feel like I've had pretty much all my grandparents have died. And most recently my nana died in like October time. And so that's like the biggest grief that I feel like I've felt recently.
Yeah.
But that in itself was hard because I'm like, the whole situation with my nana, like, she got really ill with her mental health before she actually passed away. And like, that's the thing that people don't talk about, like mental health in older people is rife. But obviously because they're of that generation where it's like, crack on, you got to crack on, and, you know,
don't
emotions
talk
are for the weak.
it.
Yeah. And I see the same characteristics in my parents. And I don't know, I feel like bigging you up right now. I want to say, like, one thing I really admire about you is how you will talk about the grief that you've had in your life, like your mum, your sister, and you talk about it with such, like, you've processed it, you've dealt with it, and you don't let that control your life. Obviously, that's a big part of your life that happened, them people in your life, but you move forward with their presence in you in a positive way.
Yeah.
And that's not to say like anyone who's dealing with grief in it, where it's affecting them negatively is wrong. Of course not. You deal with grief the way you want to deal with grief and the way it happens for you. But I really admire that about you.
But it's taken me a long time. Like, let's not forget, it's been 31 years since my mum died. And, you know, it's been 11 years since my sister died. So it's not like they literally just died yesterday. It's been a long period of time since they died. And what happened when my mum died, because I was a kid, is that it didn't get dealt with at all. There was no talking about it. Everyone just the next day, like, carry on. And also I felt as a child, like, I don't want to upset my dad. I don't want to upset my grandparents. So if they're all pretending like everything's fine, I have to do it. Yeah. But what I was doing was going to bed every single night on my own and bawling my eyes out. Like, I would be hysterically crying into my pillow every night without fail, because all I wanted was my mum back. And I would then get so angry, and that anger ended up being aimed at myself. And honestly, I would just punch myself in my legs, in my head, as hard as I could to try and, like, express that emotion. And so that kind of, like, for me, grief is one of those things. If we don't talk about it, and if we don't learn that it's a process that we have to go through, and it's about expressing emotion in a space that you're supported in, or in, like, a safe way, and having that validated, that then, like with me, all of that shit got repressed, like, so repressed, and I didn't deal with it until I was in my late 20s, early 30s. That's how it is. And it impacted everything about my life up until that point. Like, massively.
I feel like with life, there is so many ways to distract yourself from any issue that you have in life, whether you feel bad about yourself or relationships or whatever. There's so many ways to distract yourself. And I feel like with grief, a lot of people do that instead of facing a problem head on, because it's hard. Like, that's so painful. Like, you lose someone that you care so much about, and you know there's nothing that can happen to bring them back. And that is a hard feeling to deal with. So a lot of people would just ignore it, turn a blind eye to it, for instance, right? I know my mum's probably listening to this. I love you, mum. I love you so much. But I don't really feel like she ever dealt with the way that her father passed away. He died when I was maybe 5 years old. And it's just the kind of thing where we don't talk about him a lot. And if we do talk about him, I can see the emotion stir up in her. Yeah. And she's a very stern woman. Like, my mum's very loving and smiley and kind, but she's very much like a northern, like, crack on, you got to get on with it kind of person. And with something like her father passing away, because he died really suddenly. He had a heart attack in his sleep and just, like, gone. Like, it wasn't like a build up to an illness. Like, overnight he was gone. And I feel like that's something that she never dealt with properly. So even now, like, I'll watch my mum cry about on a movie, or what, like, you know, like Say Yes to the Dress, like the TV program. She'll cry about little things like that. But if it's something serious, I feel like she's programmed herself to not get emotional about it, because it's just too painful to even, like, take the plaster off to look at the wound, because it's just too much. And I've got friends like that as well who've lost parents, and it's just sort of a thing that they don't touch. But in that as well comes with a lot of, that must be so hard to keep that all inside of yourself and not discuss it with anyone. But I guess, I guess to them it's like, that pain is easier than dealing with the pain of dealing with the issue. Yeah.
Well, they think it is. Because the problem is that when you're doing that, it takes a lot of energy to repress emotion like that. And you start to lose parts of yourself. Like, you really genuinely do. Like, it's weighty. And the tell is, like, if someone can't talk about a person or what happened to them without getting, you know, like, over emotional, and they have to stop, then they haven't probably dealt with, you know, what happened at all. And they really need to. And yes, it's painful and it's horrible and it's scary to address it, but there is another side. Like, and the other thing is, you know, people talk about grief and its processes. It's not stages 1 to 5, you know, and then you go to 1, then you go to 2, then you go to 3, then you go to 4, then you go to 5, and yay, I completed grief, whoop, whoop. It doesn't work like that. You know, it's this up and down all the time. And sometimes you might be thinking, I'm having such a great day today. Like, I don't remember the last time I felt like this. And then bam, it will hit you again. But the thing with grief is that you have to be in it. You have to feel it. And part of being a human is experiencing raw emotion. It is the pain. It is all of that. And you only feel that way because you really loved somebody. And that's a blessing, that you got to love somebody that much and be loved by somebody that much that you feel that sadness. That's a blessing. Like, you've lived a good life if you...
have people that you care that much about.
And most recently, my ex-boyfriend died. And it's such a weird scenario because he's the last boyfriend that I had. So it's like 4.5 years ago we broke up. And, you know, we were in a relationship and there was really great things about him and then things that weren't great. And the fact that he wouldn't work on the things that weren't great was ultimately what led us to break up. Did I ever stop loving him? No. But I think the romantic love waned for me and disappeared for me because it was just like, it was exhausting. That I was putting in so much effort and that he was kind of like, I'm not
willing to compromise.
But we always stayed in touch. I knew that he was ill, didn't know how bad it was. And then we'd been chatting backwards and forwards, hadn't told me how ill he was, didn't know he was in hospital. And then I get a message from one of his friends saying that he's been given days to live. And I felt so angry when I received that message. I was just like, I'm so angry with you for not telling me so that I could be there for you. Like, he knows that at a drop of the hat, I would have been there for him. So I went straight to the hospital. And, you know, yes, it was a bit of a shock to see him because physically, you know, he looked really different. However, at this stage, and he had to have an oxygen mask on at this stage, he was still very conscious, lucid, and being his normal self, which basically was winding me up.
Yeah.
And, you know, like, I'm so glad that I got to have those experiences. And I went back every day, bar one day, until he died. And I was there with his family when he died. And there's what I will say about that experience is his family, who I love very much and are like incredibly supportive, amazing people, the way that they dealt with his passing is so different to how my family dealt with my mum's passing and then my sister's passing. And they were all there together. And I think it's incredible. And I know they won't mind me talking about this, but I was there with his mum and his niece. So we're in the hospital room and he's now not conscious anymore and not lucid anymore. And he hasn't been for the last couple of days. And you can put the clip on his finger and it tells you what someone's oxygen level is and their heart rate is, right? It stayed constant. It's been constant the whole time we've been there. Go in and I'm sitting there. I've been there for about an hour and a half. And we put the thing on his finger because at this point, the nurses weren't even doing observations anymore. Yeah. And we notice it starts to dip. And it's so cute because every time his mum spoke to him, it would come back up. She'd like rub his chest and say, Nath, like, we're here. And then she said, right, I need to call Tony, like his dad. His sister was on the way back to the hospital. So I was like, okay. So we can see it's still like dipping. It's coming back in. It's coming back out. His dad and his sister got back to the hospital at the same time. They walk into the room. I walked out of the room to get a nurse because the stats were so up and down. Yeah. By the time I walked back into the room, as I walked back into the room, he was gone. His dad and his sister had been back for 2 minutes. So when people tell me, like, he chose, like, he waited until they got there and chose to leave at that point. And no one can tell me any different because the timing of it is so, you know, like, wild that it's just, you know, it just is, you have choice even in death. Yeah. And that's amazing to me.
Yeah. Although it's super sad, that's a very beautiful thing.
Yeah. It's look, it's horrible. And I keep saying to his, you know, like, for me, I've lost someone that I love. I think the difference to me to, you know, maybe to anybody else is that my mum is essentially probably the closest person to me. I lost her as a child. My sister was then my best friend, like my biggest confidant, like all of that stuff. I lost her as well. So it doesn't mean that necessarily grief is easier for me. It means I've done it before. Yeah. I trust the process and I know that I will grow around it. Like I always say, grief doesn't get smaller, but you get bigger, you know? And so I know that I'll be okay. Whereas for some people, when it's your first time experiencing the loss of someone that you truly love like that, brutal.
Yeah. And I guess it's like that feeling of, is this ever going to get better? Am I ever going to not get over it, but, you know, like, learn to deal with it better? And it's kind of like that first heartbreak where it's like you feel like you are literally dying and you are just in the worst state ever. But the thing about that is it'll always be okay. Like, even when life throws the most heinous, horrible shit at you, it's still always going to be fine.
It is. If you stick with it and you go through it and you allow yourself to feel it. Because when you don't, you're just essentially prolonging it. Like, you're holding on to it. It's living within you. Like, the energy and pain of that is somewhere. Even if you don't feel it all the time and you've repressed it, it's somewhere there living within you. And you have to be willing to allow yourself to be vulnerable. You have to be willing to allow yourself to cry. You have to be willing to allow yourself to get upset, you know? And it's not like, it is not easy. It is heartbreaking, and you can't ever bring that person back. You can never have a conversation with them again.
Yeah.
You can never, you can't, like, they're gone. And that comprehension of someone being gone is so hard.
It's not even like it's the finality of it. Like when
That's
you break
done.
up with someone, it's them same feelings of grief and loss are very apparent, but they're still there.
Yeah.
It's just that you're choosing not to be together. When that choice is taken away from you, like I can't speak to my parent again, or my friend or my sister or whoever it is, that being ripped away from you and not having the choice is just like the worst thing.
Yeah, really hard.
Yeah, and I think with grief as well, there is so many complex emotions that come up, like you said about the feeling of anger. I feel like people think grief is supposed to be like, oh, I'm sad and I'm crying. A lot of things come up other than that. And I think as well, like for me, it's a bit of a different situation, but I went through a period of time like around 2020 when I was like doing a lot of healing work and starting therapy and stuff. I felt a lot of shame about my emotions just because of like the way that I was raised. And it's like, you crack on with shit. You don't let shit bother you. There's things to do. You can't let your emotions control you and whatnot. And I felt a lot of shame around my sadness, my anger, my frustration, whatever it was. And I can imagine that some people go through that in their stages of grief as well, where it's like, how am I angry? Like this, but I should be sad. There's this feelings of like, I don't know if anyone else, well, people will deal with this, but I can be very harsh on myself. Like I should be feeling this way. I should be acting this way. And it's like, really, you have to let yourself feel whatever it is that you're feeling.
One of the stages of grief is anger, like it's because it's so fucking unfair. Like ultimately, that's it. I'll be really honest. My grandparents died in 2019, both of them. They've been married since they were they met I think in their late teens, early 20s. Been married for over 70 years. They died 35 days apart. They were in their 90s. And honestly, as much as I cried because I'll miss them, but also I thought, do you know what? And they would say all the time, we have had the best life. We've had the best life. And they would repeat it and they would say it. And, they really lived a life. Like they had a life. When someone dies and they're young, and, fair enough, like my sister was 31, mum was 42, Nathan was 30. People lose their children. Do you know what I mean? When they're a couple of years old or a couple of months old or whatever. And that seems so unjust and so unfair that's a lot of that anger can come from there. Because you're just like, but why? Like, what is the reason? What is the answer to this? Why has this happened? And it can make you really angry. Yeah. And when you've got no one to talk to, like when I was a kid, that anger ended up, like I said, getting aimed at me. I was angry with myself. And, and I was trying to find outlets. I remember at the time being like, right, if I'd been born a boy, then my mum wouldn't have had a third child. This is how mad it was. Yeah. Wouldn't have had a third child, which was my brother. So when they thought it was just a milk duct infection, they would have known that it wasn't a milk duct infection. It might have been breast cancer, and they would have investigated and not left it for a year. Then she might not have died. Like that's, as a 10-year-old child, I went on that.
The whole path of like the blame, and if I'd have done this differently, if I'd have done that, then this wouldn't happen. When in reality, as blatant as it sounds, like what's happened has happened. And there's no, if I'd have done this, if I'd have done that, it doesn't matter because what's happened has happened.
Yeah. But it's when the thing is, I think with what I was trying to do as a child is give myself back some kind of control.
Yes.
Like if it's my fault, then there's a reason for it.
At least there's a reason.
There's a solution, and I'm somehow in control because everything went out of control. Like everything, it's like the way I explain it is I woke up in one world and suddenly the world looked exactly the same, but nothing was the same ever again. Like every single thing that I knew changed overnight. It looked the same, nothing was the same. It's like being in an alternate universe, just like that, just gone, changed everything. My dad changed; he was never the same person again. Like everybody just changed. I changed, everyone changed, and then you have to try and make a life from that. However, what I will say is I would not be me. I probably wouldn't even be sitting here with you. I wouldn't know the people I know. I wouldn't have lived the life I've lived had I not have had those experiences. Yeah. And one thing I've learned about life, you cannot fight with reality. Like this is the reality. I can wish it was different. I could spend and waste my time wishing it wasn't different and things hadn't happened and it worked out like this and it worked out like that. But what's the point? Like this is how it is. So I'm going to make the best of it because I now feel like I'm not just living my life for me. I'm living it for my mum and sister as well. And there's no way I'm going to waste a single day of it. And I try and remember that every day. I mean, some days I probably do waste sitting on the sofa, eating snacks. But Do you know what I mean? Like it's that, like, you have to remember that. Like sometimes losing someone just sucker punches you to the point where you're like, they don't have the option anymore. You do. You're here. So what are you going to do about it?
Do you believe in like an afterlife or signs or messages from people that have passed away?
I've had like, so with Nathan, just because he's just funny anyway. So whenever I think about him, it just makes me laugh. But we were leaving so after he passed away, his family and I stayed with his body for like 3 hours and that was really nice. My family did not do that with my mum and my sister. It was just all very separate. You go in your place, you go in your way, you go your way. And so when we were leaving the hospital, I was with his sister and his niece, and his sister said to me, oh, you know, the paper lanterns, are you still okay? Like, are we still okay to do that? And I was like, actually, I think it's not good for wildlife. And he was vegan, right? So as well. So I was like, I don't think it's good for wildlife. And she's like, oh, what could we do instead? And I was like, fireworks. You know, you could do fireworks. And I was reminiscing about a time. So my best friend and I used to have a bar. Nath was friends with my best friend's husband. They were in charge of fireworks one year for like our New Year's Eve party after copious amounts of brandy. And it was just like the Chuckle Brothers with fireworks.
Oh, God.
So we were laughing about that. And then, you know, we kind of like go home. I was like, okay, I'm going to go home. And I go to bed. Like I bawled my eyes out when I got home. And the teddy bear that I have in my bed, which is a pink unicorn, is one that Nathan brought me. So like got into bed, was like crying. And then I was like, right, finally got myself to sleep. And then I was like woken up by a start. So he died on Sunday. So this was like Sunday into Monday, like woken up like, whoa. And it was the loudest fireworks I have ever heard. And I was like, what the fuck? And then I was like, in my head, I was like, Nath. And I went to the window to look at the fireworks. And by the time I got to the window, they'd stopped. And at that moment, I was like, what is the time?
Yeah.
So I picked up my phone and it was 2:22. And if I realised that day was also the 22nd that I looked at the phone at that point.
Wow. He
He was born on the 2nd of the 2nd.
Yeah.
And I don't know where my phone is. I'm going to find it because there's what did I do with my phone? Anyone know what I did with it? Anybody know?
You're not under your bum.
It's because so then there I was like, because you know angel numbers and any numbers that are repeated are essentially like angel numbers, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, what does the 3 2s? So there's 3 2s. What does 3 2s mean? So I looked at the time and it's literally 02:22. So I was like, I wonder what that means. And I Googled it and it says, what does 222 mean after death? The number 2 is associated with balance, harmony and stability. So the appearance of 222 may indicate that the deceased person's soul has found peace and balance in the afterlife and that they're experiencing harmony and stability in their new state of being.
Wow.
And I was just like,
I feel like I'm going to get emotional on this episode.
Yeah. And then a couple of days later, because I was thinking like, what was our song? Because like I have shown you videos of Nath, right? And it will be hip hop. And he'll be like rapping along and we would do that together, right? And so I was like, I couldn't think of like a song that was not hip hop that would be like our song or a song that he would sing or whatever. And I was just like, why can't I think, like I feel really like, why can't I think of something? And then I went to see Cleo Soul at the Royal Albert Hall. So he died on Sunday. I went on the Thursday. And the DJ started playing. The third track they played is an old school reggae song by a reggae artist called John Holt. And he used to sing it to me all the time. And so I was just like...
Not something that would get played in a lot of places, like specific.
It's like... Yeah, and I didn't even... So it was just like... And it was the third song and I was there and I was just like, this is the song. You standing there.
Okay. Low bop.
Fell off my chair.
Shimmy a shoulder.
And so I was just like, all of that stuff happening. I feel like it's not necessarily a coincidence. And my sister, there's 2 songs for my sister. So there's Candy Staton, You Got the Love, which Florence and the Machine covered. My sister had it as the first dance at her wedding. So when she passed away, because she wasn't religious, we had that instead of a hymn and we all sung it.
Yeah. We played Barry White at my nana's funeral.
Did you?
My nan loved Barry White.
That's what I mean. You've got to make it personal, right? And then the other one was Cars, you know, that Chasing Cars.
Yeah.
And she told me that her and her husband, when she'd been diagnosed with cancer, they went outside and laid on the grass and they listened to that. And I remember, like, I don't know if it was the first or second anniversary after she died, I went to get some pink helium balloons to, like, let off. And I was in this, like, card shop in central London. No one else was in there. It was just me. The person went out the back to fill up the balloons and then Chasing Cars came on. And I was just stood there on my own, like, it's some, you know, okay, you could just say it's coincidence, but there's literally
what a funny
millions
coincidence,
of songs.
though, because it's like what's happened with me yesterday. So basically, my nana passed away in October. She was like, there's a thing with my nana as well. Like, obviously, it's very sad, but I feel like she had died to me a long time ago because she was very poorly mentally for the past like 5 years. But anyway, my nana passed away. The day after her funeral, so we're all at her funeral, we're all at the wake. My brother and his wife have got 2 kids. The second kid was like coming up to 2. So everyone's like, oh, you're gonna have some more kids, everyone's talking about it at the wake. They're going, nah, we're not, we're gonna wait for it, we're gonna wait. The next day, my mum went to my brother's house in the morning and my sister-in-law wasn't there. So my mum's like, oh, where is she? My brother's like, oh, she's at the doctor's. My mum's like, all right. She comes back, she's had a blood test. So you know what mum's like, so super nosy. She's like, oh, wait, what's wrong? Are you all right? You're all right. So she ended up telling my mum that she was pregnant, but it wasn't at the 12-week mark yet, right?
Okay.
So, I feel like I'm going to sneeze. I'm not going to sneeze. Okay. Anyway, so she was pregnant. A couple of weeks later, she has the 3-month scan. Find out that it's a girl. So the day after my nana's funeral, we find out there's a baby.
Yeah.
And I literally said on that day, I was like, that is from Nana. If that's not Nana reincarnated, then that's a gift from Nana. That's not our Brenda in that child's body. Anyway, and I remember saying that at the time. I was like, oh my God, there's such beautiful news after we've had the news of my Nana, which is sad. Yeah. A couple of weeks later, she has the scan. It's a girl. I said, oh my days. First girl that they've had. Cool. Fast forward now. She was due late May. She's 10 days late. Yesterday was my Nana's birthday and she gave birth yesterday. Bro, like no one can act, and it's like people are like, oh, it's just a coincidence. It's just a coincidence. No, you actually cannot tell me that's a coincidence. That is a spiritual gift from my Nana. I'm not having anyone tell me otherwise. Like that's just, I don't know. I find stuff like that makes me smile and makes me happy because like even in the sadness, that's such a beautiful gift, and it's so comforting to know that like someone's still with you. Yeah. And I don't know, have you ever been to see like a psychic or anything that tells you like someone's with you?
I've had the worst experience with psychics. So I've been a couple of times and I'm just going to readjust myself. And I don't ever tell them anything about me because I'm like, I'm not going to let you know anything. None of them that I've ever seen have mentioned my mum or my sister ever. Really? They're like, there's an old man here. I'm just like, ugh. And I know like my sister, if anyone was going to come through, it's going to be her. Like she'd be like, hello, it's me. So then I get really disappointed. The first one I went to see, I genuinely was so upset afterwards because I really thought that I was going to get this message from like my sister, and I didn't, and I was just like, I'm so upset about this.
Do you think that everyone that does that is a scam, or do you think that there's just some people that I think some people really genuinely can. I think we can all intuit things. Yeah. Like if I said to you, I'm going to sit here now, and like if I really cleared my mind and just said the first things that came into my head, not that I'm thinking, just the stuff that like was flowing into my head, then I think we can all intuit things. You'd be really surprised what you can intuit about a stranger. 100%. It's like your gut feeling that you have. It's just that people don't trust that feeling enough for it to become a thing that you can trust it. Yeah. Damn. We're all a bit psychic. We're all a bit psychic. But yeah, it's grief, loss, death is going to happen to all of us. And the more we get used to talking about it and get comfortable with it, the better prepared we're going to be. And the less of a like brutality is when it actually happens to you. I can't lie, I'm scared, man. For like when I lose a parent, I'm very scared. It's hard. And I think as well because like my dad does not have the best of health, and that man is like my twin. Like we are like I'm very close to my mum as well, close to all my family, but me and my dad, like I feel like we are actually just the same person in different bodies. And even the thought of losing him is difficult. But I know it's going to happen because it's inevitable, isn't it?
well, what's the opposite? That you go first. Like that's the truth, isn't it? Like that's the other thing. And I think, you know, I personally feel like when people die, they're not going to be sad. It's us.
Yeah.
So people left behind, right? And I think that actually it's such a part of human experience. No one gets to avoid it. We all have to go through it.
Yeah.
And it's supposed to be hard. It's not supposed to be easy or, you know, something that we're just like, yeah, we're never going to be like that. But it's a part of, by design, it's a part of human experience. So we have to get good at it. And I think that when I think about my sister, the one regret that I have, and this is the only regret I have in life at all, I have one regret in life. And the regret I have in my life is that I never spoke to my sister about death.
Really?
And I feel all the time, I feel really sad about that.
Even about your mum?
No, we spoke about my mum, but it wasn't that. It's like my sister was dying. But because that was never said by a doctor, she and I never had that conversation. And so it was like, with my sister, like imagine when my sister was having treatment at one of the University College Hospital that's on Tottenham Court Road, right? I got bored of her being in the hospital. She was bored. She's like, please get me out of here. So I was like, I'm just going to put her in a wheelchair and push her around like the ward. I took her outside. It was snowing. No. We were running down Tottenham Court Road, laughing our head. Well, she was in a wheelchair. I was pushing her, running down the road. Like we just escaped from jail. She's wearing like pajamas, like hospital pajamas and a dressing gown. We're just running, like laughing. And we went to like a Costa or whatever and got like hot chocolate and cake and stuff. Yeah. Everyone was just looking at her like, what the hell? She's here in her pajamas in the middle of the day. But that was me and her. Like a lady told us off once when she was having chemotherapy because the lady was having chemo as well, because we were sitting there cracking jokes and laughing, and she was like, can you please be quiet? And I understand everyone's going through their own journey, but that was our way of doing things. So what we didn't have was a conversation about death. And I know that she spoke to my nan and granddad and told them that she was really scared and she was crying. She was scared of dying. And I wish she could have had that conversation with me. And I feel like it's when you speak about it, you're making it a reality. And I think like if you're in that situation of you're dying, like my uncle as well had pancreatic cancer, died a few years ago. And I'll remember this story where like I feel like that's them at them, they're so ill, but that's them at their most vulnerable moment where it's like I'm admitting how terrified I am that this thing is happening to me that I have no control over. Because I remember my auntie telling me one of their last trips before he passed away, they went up to Scotland and they used to love doing that outdoorsy stuff and going on kayaks and whatnot. So they'd done that, and then one night, like it was him, her and that other couple friend, and he just broke down one night and was saying how terrified he was of dying because it was happening. And that in itself just takes so much strength to be so vulnerable, because it's like everyone's looking at you and you're supposed to be like the strong one, like, oh no, it's fine, like I'm dying, haha, cool. And it's like, no, it's not cool, it's not good, and it's all right to be terrified about it because everyone else is thinking it as well. I just wish she'd had that conversation with me, and I wish I could have spoken to her about it. And I think like it gave me, when I was with Nathan, I said to him like, are you scared? And he was like, I'm not scared, I'm just really worried about my mum. And you know, and like it's that I think there is a way to die well. Yeah. Like there's a woman and she does this thing called soul midwifery, and she trains people to be like a soul midwife. So you have a midwife to bring people into the world, then you have a midwife to help you leave, you know, essentially. And I do think there is a way to do that. And again, that only happens if we get comfortable talking about death. Yeah. You know? It is something that's still very taboo. It's like, oh, God forbid, even when you're like cracking jokes and you're like, oh, it's always touch wood, God forbid, oh, blah, blah, blah. But it is just such a natural thing. As natural as a baby being born into this world. It's so natural. It's just fucking hard. You know, baby's a joyful thing. And when you lose someone, it's brutal and it's hard and it's really sad. The life that they had was... It's the whole it leaves behind. It's the everything it leaves behind. It's all the possibility, everything that, you know, like my mum's not going to be at my wedding. She wasn't at my brother's wedding. She wasn't at my sister's wedding. I didn't have... Like when I started my period on my own. Like all of those things. That's why this podcast is called Things I Wish My Mum Had Told Me. Because there's so much. I don't even know who she was. Like I don't know any of her friends that she had. And, you know, my dad doesn't really talk about her that much. So I don't even really know who she was as a person. And I'm like, what parts of me are like her? I don't know. I've got no clue what parts of me are like my mum. I don't know. Probably so many. Probably so many. That must be like comforting though. I really need a wee.
You need a wee wee. Not this. That's because she sank 2 Aperol spritzers.
I need a wee.
You want to go for a wee wee?
Can we pause the podcast so I can go for a wee? Back from my wee break, everybody.
She's back. Back again.
Sometimes that happens.
It does happen.
You just need a wee, don't you? You just got to go for a wee. Especially when you're talking about, you know, stuff that's hard to talk about.
Yeah.
My tiny bladder can't cope.
My emotional little bladder.
Crying tears. Really is right now. So while I was on the toilet, I scrolled through Instagram. I posted this in 2015. So you can imagine I had to go through quite a lot of posts.
Yeah.
And the day that my mum died, now bearing in mind, when I was a kid, I didn't know my mum was going to die. Like, she was really ill and she was at home because she was in a hospice, but I didn't know what hospice was.
Yeah.
So I was just like, Mum, can I have a hamster? She's like, you've already got one hamster. And I was just like, why won't you let me have a hamster? You know, like, so kind of trivial stuff, because I just didn't know she was going to die. And I remember watching this TV show and there was a woman in it who died of cancer, and my dad said, that's what your mum's got. And I looked at my mum and I was like, but you won't die, will you? And not until I'm at least 18. You have to be here till I'm 18. Yeah. In my head, I couldn't comprehend because I thought only old people die. Yeah. I was a kid. And then I said goodbye to her in the morning, went to school, never saw her again.
Oh my God.
And so I feel like the fact that my parents decided not to tell me.
Yeah, how serious it was.
And that she was dying. And so the shock was so much worse because it was just like a psh. And I do think, like, for me, the reason that I talk so much about, like, my mum and my sister's passing, death, grief, loss, all of it, is because no one was talking about that when I was younger. No one was. And I really was like, none of my peers could relate to me at all. So I felt really alone in that, like, so alone. My family weren't talking about it. No one else was talking about it. None of my mates could understand me. So it was almost like I was pretending to be someone I wasn't.
Yeah.
And then when I get home on my own, I would lock myself in my bedroom and bawl my eyes out. And that went on for so long that it became hard for me to ever express that side of me to other people. And one of the things that I say about, like, Nathan, my ex-boyfriend who passed, like, one of the amazing qualities about him was he was the first man that when I got upset would just hold me, wouldn't try and say what's wrong, how can I make it better, try and fix things, nothing. He would just let me be sad. And all I needed was to be sad and just to be held. Like, that's all I needed. And it didn't happen my whole childhood, most of my adult life. I've had guys walk out on me because they couldn't deal with my emotion. I was just upset about my mum or my sister, and it was just too much for them.
Because I think you being so open and vulnerable in those things triggers things in other people that they're not open and vulnerable in discussing. Because I think, like, a lot of shit has happened to a lot of people, but you wouldn't even know sometimes because they just won't talk about it. Yeah.
But I guess, like, sometimes for me, like, when my sister was diagnosed with breast cancer, that was such an emotional time for me. I started having panic attacks. I got stress-induced vertigo because I was, like, it blew my actual brain. My mum's already died of the disease. My sister's 25. I was 22. Now she's got the same disease. What's going to happen? Yeah. It was just a lot. Like, all of it was a lot. But Nathan was the first person to just be, like, that physical presence. And that was enough. Like, that's all I needed. And it hadn't happened up until that point. And that was life-changing for me and life-affirming. To have someone witness me in that way, to have someone be there with me in that moment, changed everything.
That's so nice.
It is nice. And that's, like, one of the reasons why he's so important to me. Anyway, so my mum, on the day that she died, wrote these, you know, like, little cards you get with flowers? Yeah. So she wrote a little one to, like, everyone. So she mustered the strength on the day she died to write these little cards. And I still have it, obviously. And it says, so my parents used to call me Clue, Clueykins, Clue Clogs, like, that was my nickname. So it says, Dear Clue, Clue, or Clara, I wish I could be with you always to see you grow, but things don't always work out. Please remember that I will always love you and be with you. I hope that you too will find love and happiness as you grow, and especially find a loving partner to care and share life with. Don't be in too much of a hurry and enjoy going places and seeing things. Loving you always, Mummy.
It's got me emotional, man.
It's hard.
Yeah. And you know what? Like, in that message, and she's like, don't rush too much. And it's like, look at where you are in life now. And it's like you've never compromised on what you wanted and what you want from life and a partner, or, you know.
Yeah.
And it's like you're living out exactly what she wanted for you.
Exactly.
So that must be comforting.
Yeah, I guess so. And I do think like when I read that, I feel like I'm so sad that I didn't get to have that relationship with like you know, like a woman. And I think for a long time I found it really difficult to like connect with women. I had like friends, but I just thought people didn't like me, especially women didn't like me. And I didn't know, like, how do you learn how to be a woman? Like, how do you know any of that? And I just felt really alien. And I think that experience of like losing my mum when I was a kid and no one else knowing what that was like just meant that I was like floating around. It felt like I was just disconnected from everything for a long time. And that's why I always say my life was a chaotic mess. It was chaos.
Yeah.
Like inside chaos was crazy. And I think like sometimes I'm like, that's why this year when I did a Mother's Day post, I wrote it to myself.
Yeah.
Because as much as I miss my mum, it's like I have had to be that person for myself.
You had to learn how to mother yourself.
Yeah. And I have got a stepmom, and, you know, like my stepmom, my dad got together with her really quickly. And I still speak to her, I'm fine with her, but she wasn't necessarily a particularly like maternal person at all. So it didn't, in some ways, maybe it made it worse.
Yeah.
But yeah, but like it's hard. And I miss my mum. Like I genuinely now, 30 whatever years on, will sometimes cry like a baby because all I want is my mum back. I want my mum.
I don't think that stops for anyone though, no matter what age you are, that feeling of like, that's my mummy or whatever, if that sounds childish. Like I still call my mum and dad mummy and daddy. And I don't think that feeling will ever go away, no matter like if you're 80 years old, that yearning for like, I just want my mummy.
Yeah. I think like when I think about it, I think in ways like not it made me cold, but it made me hard, like in a certain way, because even though because there was so much hurt inside me, I had to be hard because there wasn't an outlet for that anywhere else. So it's kind of just like.
Do you think like the way that happened strengthened you or made you into a better person? I know it sounds hard to say when it's something like that's affected you so negatively, but do you think it sort of made you who you are now?
Of course it has. Like that's the only thing it can have done, right? And it does make me like, I know that I'm a really compassionate and empathetic person, and I was like that as a child, but I very quickly learned that the rest of the world isn't necessarily like that. And as much as I love my dad, and I find it really hard to say anything like remotely negative or not positive about my dad and then not back it up with something really positive.
Yeah.
But the way that my dad dealt with my mum's death was shit.
Yeah.
And so I was on my own, my sister was on her own, my brother was on his own. Like all of us as small children feeling completely on our own, like no one there to witness it, no one there to tell us it would be okay, no one there to tell us it was okay to be sad, like none of that.
Yeah.
And so I think I had to make like a hard shell, because if I didn't, I would have been a gibbering wreck, and that wasn't it didn't feel like that was acceptable.
Yeah.
And so I've had to deal with all of that to get to the place that I'm at now.
Yeah.
And I feel like sometimes people, they won't understand it, because unless your parent died when you were a kid, you're not going to understand what what that journey's like.
So you're all sharing the same collective grief, but feeling so isolated from each other, which is why, like, again, what happened with Nathan recently is so sad, but maybe the way that you're seeing his family dealt with that must be comforting to you in some way, because it's like the same kind of grief, but it's been done in a completely different way.
Yeah, it is. It really is. And it's like that, I feel like that's how it's supposed to be done. Like that's how you're supposed, like if there's a way you're supposed to do it, that's the way you're supposed to do it.
And that's the thing, like communication and just being open. It's just, I feel like that solves so many things in life.
Yeah.
Your friendships, your relationships, your anything. Like just having that openness. But it's hard some people really struggle with letting people see them authentically for who they are and what they're dealing with. And there's this thing of like, I need to be strong all the time. I need to be this person. And sometimes let your walls down.
I do. I let them out open.
I knew you were going to make a fucking sexual innuendo.
But the thing is as well, I think like for me, that's why I talk about stuff so openly on social media as well. Like I will talk about grief. I will talk about, you know, any of that stuff. And one of the reasons I think I do it is because I grew up with it not being heard by anybody. I'm like, no, I'm in a place where I want to talk about this. Like, what's wrong with talking about it? And for me to be seen and for my experience to be seen. Mm-hmm. So I think there is that kind of like, I don't need anyone's validation. I just need to say it out loud because for so long I wasn't allowed. Like, I felt like I wasn't allowed, and that's the truth.
To normalize it for other people who are dealing with the same things.
Exactly. And to say, look, I'm here. Like, I made it. It's okay.
Yeah.
Like, life goes on and you can do it, and you can be happy, and you can find joy again, and you can like experience great things. And and I feel like my mum and my sister both live like within me, and that's part of the reason why I am the way I am.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, you have to fight. Like my sister, I'll just tell a little story about my sister. Was a beauty therapist and a perfectionist, and like nothing like me. So she was like short, small, petite with blonde hair, and I'm like tall, broad, dark hair, right? So complete physical opposites. I think I'm quite chilled. My sister, on the other hand, would come across as like very you know, like kind of not prim and proper, but you know, like she's always the one that's telling her friends what to do, this, that, until she got drunk or whatever. The wildest person you've ever met. So like these two different worlds. Anyway, as a beauty therapist, everything had to be done to perfection. And I go to the hospice, so she's in the hospice now, and I go there and she's like, Clara, look at my fucking nails. They're a fucking mess. So basically, her friend had painted her nails, Jenny, and she was happy with it. No, she was happy with Jenny's job. Then her old boss came in, took that nail varnish off and gave her a French polish.
But why?
Because she thought she'd do her nails because the other one had been on for a week. Okay. She was fuming. She's like, they're fucking shit. Just you wait till my husband sees this. They are disgusting. And so like she was going on this mad rant about her nails, right? There was also a Mr. Whippy machine in the hospice. So anyone that came in to see her, she'd tell them that she hadn't had any ice cream that day. She got more ice cream. When she died, she had the nail varnish on, right?
The shitty French.
Yeah. So we were just like, that can't stay.
That's not going to run.
No, it wasn't going to run. So some of her friends went, like one's a hairdresser, he did her hair, like her friend did her nails, did her makeup, like everything, so that she would have been happy, because there's no way she would have ever, like, it's just the way she was so angry about her nails. And I do think that even, you know, when someone's dying, there are still these moments of kind of like their personality 100%. Shining through, and it just makes you laugh so much. Yeah. And like, even with Nathan, he was like, he hadn't eaten for weeks, and then the day that I got there, he started eating again. And I was like, what, you know, do you want to eat something? What do you want? And there's this place called, he's vegan, there's a place called Eats a Vegan, Eden, which is like West Indian
food. I've been there in
Brixton.
Like,
yeah. So I was like, I'll order food. And he's like, no, it's £21. I'm only going to eat about £3 of it, because he wasn't eating a lot. He's like, it's just a waste. I was like, well, we'll share it. It's fine. Yeah. Like, we can, you know, and he was like, yeah, okay, cool. So I ordered the food on Deliveroo, and I've like put it on his bed, and I'm like eating some, he's eating some, and I look at him and he's just staring at me like this. And I was like, I looked at him and I like carried on eating, and I look at him, he's just like that.
Was he fuming you were eating his food?
And I was like, are you all right? He was like, yeah, you. Do you want some more?
Not yet. Yeah, you. Fuck off eating my cauliflower.
Do you want some more of that? Do you want some more of that? Why don't you just help yourself to that? Why don't you just have that? And I was like, I'm sorry. Like, I thought we were sharing this. And he was like, this is why I don't share my food. And I was like, no, if you can have all of it if you want. I thought we were going to share it. Like, he was really like fuming with me. And then he was actually pissed off that I was eating food, even though he'd said he was okay to share it. And then I think it was like the next day, he said something to me. He's like, I know what you're playing at. And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, why you're here? And I said, I'm here for you. Like, if you don't want me to be here, I won't be here. And he was like, I don't want you to be here. And I said, I'm serious. So if you don't want me here, I won't. And he was like, okay, then fuck off. Right. As soon as when he said that, like, I obviously looked really hurt. He just started laughing. No. Like, laughing. And then
not the dark humor in the
biggest grin on his face. And I was just like, great. You haven't changed. Thanks.
Oh my God.
But, you know, I think like it was just, I'm so glad that I was there to get told
I'm
off.
laughing at your misery.
Basically, yeah. That's exactly what he was doing.
And this is the thing, like, it's actually dark humor, but there's actually funny parts of death.
There is.
Speaking of, do you want a saucy secret?
Should we do some saucy secrets? I mean, we're kind of flipping it up this week.
Secret?
It's not that saucy.
It's not saucy, no.
We just thought we'd lighten the episode.
We want to lighten it up for you guys and make you all laugh. So, I've been on my Googles.
Have you?
Yeah, I have.
Lovely.
And I found this thread, right? And it was basically clergies, people who work like
Yeah.
funeral homes and whatnot, talking about, so it says, clergies, share your awesome, you're not going to believe this funeral stories. Okay? So we're doing dark humour edition.
Look, even
mad funeral stories.
within death, there are funny things that happened. Although I will say, at my mum's funeral, there was a wake at my grandparents' house. I was bored. Wanted to lighten the mood.
Did you sing karaoke for everyone?
No, I found some fake snow in a can, sprayed it around the white toilet seat.
No.
I got in a lot of trouble. I was like, why is nobody laughing? Because even as a kid, it's like this grief is this up and down thing, and you still want some normalcy as well. So yeah, that's what I did.
Literally, I remember when my granddad died, I was about 5 years old. It's like one of my earliest memories. I just remember, I didn't know what was happening. All my aunties were there in the living room. I literally remember it so vividly. Everyone's crying. I did not understand what was happening. I was sat in the front room like, can you put the TV on for me? Watching like Bear in the Big Blue House. Everyone's crying around me. And I was just like, that meme of Rosalia.
Yeah.
And she's like chewing the gum like.
That was you.
That was me looking at my family like, will you pull it together? Full well, my granddad's just died.
Just didn't know what was going on. Also, at my sister's funeral, my best friend, who was also really close to my sister, had really bad diarrhea, which my sister would have found hilarious. So she had to keep getting up and like running out and going to the toilet in the venue we were in and going for a shit. So yeah.
That's so bad but so funny.
There's also another thing that happened, which is that we asked everyone to bring cakes. My sister loved cake, so like just bring cakes with you. And she loved like fairies and all of that stuff. So my best friend got a professional baker to make these cupcakes. And she's like, can you do a really nice like icing fairy? Now, bearing in mind, you know about my sister and the nails, right?
Yeah.
So, she was thinking like a really nice looking, like Tinkerbell type fairy. She called me and she's like, we're fucked. I was like, why? And she was like, it was just like she'd rolled some sausages, like rolled a ball for the head, a ball for the body, some sausages for the arms, sausages for legs, and just whacked it on there. Like if my sister would have gone
turning in her grave.
That's exactly it. Even though she was cremated, if she would have jumped right out, she would have gone straight in there and been like, "What the fuck is this?" Yeah, she would have done that. She'd have been like, "What the fuck is this?"
You're serving this at my funeral.
Yeah,
diabolical.
So we laughed at that as well. That's what I mean. There's always these little funny things that happen.
Okay, so let me share some of these with you. So
let's go.
You're not going to believe this funeral stories. My first graveside service, I slipped on very wet grass and fell into the grave. Thankfully, prior to the casket going in. It says, wait. As the funeral home attendants pulled me out, the grandson of the deceased said, "Hallelujah, he has risen." Wait, it says, we dated for 4 months after this.
Oh, maybe that's what I need to go and do.
Hallelujah.
To find a boyfriend to just start falling in people's
risen.
graves. I mean, at least the grandson had a sense of humour, but I don't know how I'd feel about falling in a grave. I suppose if you didn't laugh, you cry.
Literally, because what else are you supposed to do at this point?
Mm-mm.
Okay, wait.
What else have you got for me?
I can relate. It wasn't my first funeral, but still embarrassing when the dry sand gave way and one leg slipped into the grave during the committal right before the Lord's Prayer. Not the Lord's Prayer.
Just disappeared. Sorry, just one leg, pulling the leg back out.
Oh my God. The funeral director locked the keys in the hearse and had to smash the back window to get the coffin out. Can you imagine?
You're the family, and then they can't even.
And they're trying to do it like in a nice, humble, nice,
very peaceful,
somber, and then we're doing up,
smashing. I mean, I feel like that would add so much humour that it would lighten the mood. I'd be like, imagine someone driving past though, and you're just like smashing the back window of the hearse, sliding the coffin out, the broken window.
Got his back window smashed in right before.
Got his back door smashed in.
It's what he would have wanted. I love that phrase. It's what he would have wanted. Oh wait, hold on.
Just press the wrong button.
Okay. A burial during the worst snowing years. Family left me at the funeral. Family left me and the funeral director to it and watched from the pub window. That's some shit my family would do.
They're doing the whole funeral.
She's the vicar that's put this. So the vicar and then the funeral home.
And they're just like
people,
waving from the pub.
That'd be my fucking family. Oh, fuck this, get in pub.
Yeah, I don't blame him. It's warm in there. Have a pint. I would understand if it was my family.
Yeah.
I wouldn't blame them.
I won't blame my family either.
If you wanted to do that, you got to stay comfortable.
Oh my God. Retired farmer wished his ashes to be thrown in an orchard he had planted. Present owners agreed. Flock of geese that lived in said orchard assumed feeding time. That's it. Nah, because they ate his dead body. Animals are fucking reckless. Like, they actually eat their own shit.
Yeah.
I find that insane.
And other animal shit.
They have no qualms in eating.
And they eat ashes apparently as well. But
pigs do that though. Someone told me that pigs will eat like a dead body and that bones and everything.
Yeah.
So if you're trying to plan a murder,
you want to and leave nothing behind.
Don't tell them you got it from here, but you know.
The pigs.
The pigs.
The pigs will have it.
The piggy wiggies.
They'll have it. What else we got?
Okay.
Got one more for me? Got one more funny story.
Let me see. Is this the funniest one? I'm trying to find the funniest one.
Find the funniest one. I like the fact that we're so organised and we've done all the prep.
And I'm here like scrolling.
That's what you like about us, isn't it?
It is.
Last minute Larry's.
No, right, hold on, I've got one for you. I don't know if it's the funniest one, but I've got one for
you. Okay, what is it?
At my mum's funeral, the pastor dropped his mic on her coffin during service and had to fish through flowers to find it. Never found it. Church staff had to bring him another one. Imagine what if he dropped it inside, like next to the dead body.
No, the coffin's closed and it said there was loads of flowers on the top. No?
That's so awkward, like having to fish through. My nana had real nice flowers at her funeral.
Yeah.
I love a flower.
Yeah.
Funeral flower.
Me too. Do love a flower.
Oh, so this is what I wanted to ask you, right?
Go on.
What is like 3 things that has to happen at your funeral? Because also when I was researching for this episode, right, I saw this thing of this granny. Let me pull it up, right? This granny said she went viral on TikTok for 3 simple funeral rules that she had. And her rules were cry, but not too much. Like, you can cry, but don't make a fucking fool out of yourself, yeah?
Right, yeah, got it.
Get drunk afterwards.
Yeah.
And the 3rd rule was Bertha is not invited. Now, I don't know what Bertha did, but Bertha was uninvited from the funeral. So now I have a question for you. Do you have any rules that have to happen at your funeral?
I think for me, at my funeral, the rules would be I don't want it in a church.
Okay.
Don't take me near a church. My sister's funeral was in a wedding venue. Let's do that. Like somewhere fun. I'd quite like it to be like, you know, an actual party, you know?
Yeah.
Like just have my funeral there. Everyone's like dancing, drinking and having a good time. Maybe have like a band on.
You know what?
Playing some music. Dun, dun,
yeah. You know? I feel like different cultures do funerals so differently. Like I feel like English culture, it's all very sad and everyone's black and everyone's crying. Like I look at some of my friends who are Caribbean, whose family members have passed away. Bro, they are celebrating.
Yeah.
It's like everyone's dancing, there's music and this and that. It's like a celebration of life rather than like a mourning of passing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I want a celebration of life. That's exactly what I want. So I think I would have like music and like a party. Like I want it to be like a party. And everyone like having drinks and like sharing stories.
Yeah.
I want like the wildest stories of my life, and maybe I'll record those, you know, or maybe people can just edit from all of this content.
Yeah.
But like the wildest stories of my life, I want that to be playing on a, you know, on loop on a video, you know, like a film about my life, but just the wild bits, like the craziest bits. Yeah. Like all of that stuff. And I think, yeah, people can cry, but you know, don't cry too much and just have a good time. Like that's what it's about, right? Come to my funeral, have a good time. And also, the other thing I will say is, if you love me, anyone, don't wait until I'm dead to say it.
Yeah, man.
Say it now when I'm alive.
Admit your love for me now.
Shoot your shot. And you? What would be the rules?
See,
for
listen,
yours?
like the toxic side of me is like, I want everyone to be beside themselves, sobbing. It's not realistic though, but right. So what I'm going to give you is like my unrealistic, self-obsessed funeral. Right, it's not real life. It's not really how I feel, but in an alternate.
No, it is how you feel. Just say it.
Yeah, but I don't actually wish it. Like I don't actually wish my loved ones to be sad. But like, if I was really being self-obsessed, right? Everyone's got to be like, you know what?
Like hysterical.
like the reality, right? So the reality is I want everyone to wear colour. I want everyone to celebrate. I want everyone to talk about me with fondness. My dramatic self is like, everyone's got to wear the best, nicest fucking outfit you've ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
All black. Like, I want people to wear like them little headdresses with the what's it called? The fishnet on the front, like little handkerchiefs.
Right.
Yeah, little handkerchiefs and little gloves, like little black gloves. Like, I'm just envisioning like little black tailored skirt suit with a little visor with the fishnet.
Yeah, the dress code's already too much. I'm not coming to your funeral.
Yeah.
Don't have the right wardrobe.
The gloves. You have to like go and get like a tailor-made outfit for my fucking funeral. And hats. I need hats. Like, I need hats so
We're
big
only
that
on
the
point
person,
one.
like the person behind you can't even see what's going on in front because the hats, right? And I'm gonna need like a big, like a guy doing like the whole show. It's gonna be like a show, really, rather than like a funeral. It's gonna be like a show, and it's gonna be music, and it's gonna be like so many. Oh my gosh, you know what I mean? Like so dramatic. Oh no, I've only got 2 minutes.
She's already taken 5.
You know what? That's the first one I'm gonna give you, and that's what my dramatic self wants. But in reality, that's not what I want.
I'm
in
looking
reality,
at my phone now. I've got bored of you.
In reality, I just want everyone to talk about me, obviously, because I fucking love myself. Talk about me with such fondness and happiness, and good fucking music. If there's dead music, and I tell you what, if there's a dead buffet at my funeral, I'll be fuming.
God,
So we better have some good fucking food. Everyone better get drunk. I hope some of my friends fuck afterwards. I know it's sad, but like a little shag after a few, like, you know what I mean? Like,
just in your
make
honor.
yourself feel good. It's what I would have wanted, and I'm telling you this right now. I'm looking direct to camera. I want you to fuck after my funeral because I want there to be happiness.
Why not?
And sex.
Fuck after the funeral.
And that's how I feel.
Funeral fuck.
And that's on that.
And if you're single, use your sex toys.
That's what I mean. Like, it's like, oh, crying. Like, oh, maybe we can help each other and be sad together. And really, it's, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Either that or that.
Or that.
Or that. Whatever. Just have fun.
Yeah.
Enjoy yourself. Live your life.
That's on that.
So we've started on grief. We've ended on sex. We can't escape it, really.
It always goes that way with me. I'm sorry.
It does with me too.
Meow.
Meow. Well, it's been another great episode, I think.
It has.
I think it's been good to have this discussion.
It has. It was serious and also funny because that's how life is.
It is. Sometimes it's serious, sometimes it's funny. And this has been Things I Wish My Mama Told Me podcast.
Make sure you give us a little follow, you give us a little review, you tell your friend to tell a friend. Oh wait, I feel like I'm using other people's thing, but what I said in the other episode was share this to all your WhatsApp contacts, like do a broadcast. Yeah. Because they're going to love
Instagram,
it.
your group chat, everything. Just
follow
put
us
in there.
Yep.
Follow us.
Get
like
us on the Instagram.
Review us.
Send us an email.
Do us.
Oh.
Boo us.
No, don't boo us.
No.
Only if you really feel like it. But send us an email if you've got any dilemmas. Hit us in the DM for other dilemmas.
Mumtoldmepod.
Make sure you're following
at
us.
gmail.com.
Because we do polls and stuff on the Instagrams. And that's all you need to know for now.
Send us your sexy secrets.
Sexy secrets. No, it's not sexy, baby. It's saucy
and sexy secrets.
And make sure to come back next week.
Love you.
Love you.
Bye.
Bye.